Meet Jake, a young aviation enthusiast whose love for flight simulators has always been a source of joy and escape. But when his passion is dismissed as a mere distraction by his parents, Jake's dream of flying seems increasingly distant. Little did anyone know, this same passion would become crucial in a life-or-death situation high above the Pacific Ocean. As turbulence strikes and the situation becomes dire, Jake's simulator skills are put to the ultimate test. With bravery and quick thinking, he takes control of the aircraft, guiding it through the storm to a safe landing. Witness the remarkable turn of events as Jake transforms from an overlooked dreamer into a true hero. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. On a fateful vacation flight, as the plane glided smoothly towards the radiant shores of Hawaii, an unexpected crisis began to unfold in the vast expanse of the sky. Without warning, the pilot and co-pilot, who were once the epitome of calm professionalism, succumbed to a sudden and debilitating fainting spell. The serene hum of the engines was abruptly replaced by an eerie silence, broken only by the rising tide of panic among the passengers. Each heartbeat felt like a thunderous drum, echoing through the cabin as fear and uncertainty enveloped everyone on board. Amid this chaos, when hope seemed to wane and desperation threatened to take hold, the unlikeliest of heroes emerged, a 12-year-old boy named Jake. What he accomplished next left every passenger in stunned disbelief, their faces etched with awe and astonishment. For Jake, life had always revolved around a singular, fervent passion: flight simulators. These digital marvels were not just games to him, they were portals to a world where he could transcend the boundaries of his small, unassuming American town. Every time he sat before the glowing computer screen, the detailed control panels, and the intricate instruments, he felt a profound sense of purpose and exhilaration. The virtual cockpit was his sanctuary, a place where he was not merely a 12-year-old boy with a vivid imagination, but a skilled pilot navigating the boundless skies with confidence and precision. To Jake, each simulation was a step closer to realizing his dreams, a tantalizing glimpse into a future he yearned for with all his heart. However, the reality of Jake's situation was met with mixed reactions from his parents, Tom and Sarah. Tom, a man known for his practical, grounded approach to life, viewed Jake's obsession with flight simulators through a lens of skepticism. To him, these digital flights were a perilous distraction, diverting his son's attention from what he considered more productive and tangible pursuits. Tom's voice often carried a note of concern, tinged with frustration, as he implored Jake to abandon the computer and engage in activities he deemed more valuable. "Jake, you're spending far too much time on that computer. This isn't real life. You need to get outside, play with your friends, and do something that contributes to your growth," he would insist, his words laced with a mix of worry and exasperation. In contrast, Sarah approached the situation with a more compassionate understanding. She saw the joy and enthusiasm that radiated from Jake whenever he was immersed in his flight simulations. To her, these games represented more than mere distractions. They were a reflection of Jake's deepest aspirations and dreams. While she acknowledged Tom's concerns, Sarah believed in the importance of nurturing Jake's passions. "Tom, he's just a child, and these dreams are part of his growing up. Let him explore them. But Jake, maybe it's wise to find a balance. Spend some time outdoors and try to make new friends," she would advise, her voice soft but firm, aiming to reconcile her husband's practical viewpoint with her supportive stance. Jake, meanwhile, experienced a profound sense of freedom and empowerment in the virtual cockpit that was rarely mirrored in his real life. In the simulator, he was not constrained by the limitations of age or inexperience. He was the commanding pilot, making critical decisions and executing complex maneuvers with unwavering focus. His dedication to mastering every aspect of aerodynamics, emergency procedures, and navigational techniques was unparalleled. Although Jake dreamed of one day soaring through the skies as a real pilot, He knew his parents perceived his ambitions as little more than a transient fancy. To them, his dreams were a phase and ephemeral distraction that would soon fade away. Yet within the confines of the simulator, Jake felt an exhilarating connection to his future self. Each virtual flight was not just a game, it was a testament to his resilience, skill, and unwavering commitment to his dreams. It was a glimpse of the boundless possibilities that lay ahead, a manifestation of the future he so ardently desired. As the plane continued its perilous journey, Jake's moment of truth arrived, and he faced the ultimate test of his knowledge and passion. The eyes of the passengers were fixed upon him, their hearts beating in unison with a mixture of hope and trepidation, as the boy who had always found solace in his virtual flights now held their lives in his young hands. Gradually, as time passed, Jake's once innocent fascination with flight simulators began to forge an invisible but palpable barrier between him and his parents. What had started as a harmless hobby had evolved into a chasm of misunderstanding and discord. Tom's patience, once boundless, grew increasingly thin. His frustration simmered beneath the surface, manifesting in frequent admonitions and mounting disapproval. To him, Jake's endless hours in front of the computer were not just a minor annoyance, they were a serious misstep, an indication of misplaced priorities. "Jake, you can't spend your whole day lost on that screen. This isn't healthy for you, both physically and mentally," Tom would assert, his voice tinged with growing impatience and worry. Each word was a testament to his deep-seated concern, but also to his inability to see the value Jake found in his virtual flights. Sarah, though more empathetic and understanding, was not immune to the strain of the situation. She watched with a heavy heart as her son grew more withdrawn and immersed in his digital realm. Despite her efforts to bridge the gap with gentle suggestions, her concern was palpable. "Jake, I know you're passionate about this, but you have to understand, it's not everything. You need balance. You should be spending more time outdoors and connecting with friends," she would say, her voice a mix of tender care and unspoken anxiety. Her attempts to navigate the fine line between support and concern often left her feeling helpless. As she struggled to reconcile her son's dreams with the practical realities of his upbringing, Jake, caught in this emotional crossfire, found himself increasingly isolated in his devotion to the simulators. His responses to his parents' concerns were often laced with frustration and a deep longing for validation. "But Mom, Dad, this is more than just a game to me. It's my passion, my calling. I'm learning so much here. Please understand that this is important to me," he would counter, his voice trembling with a mixture of desperation and determination. To Jake, the flight simulator was not merely a pastime, it was a portal to his future, a way to cultivate skills he hoped would one day transcend the virtual and manifest in the real world. In the quiet solitude of his room, Jake continued to nurture his dreams amidst the hum of virtual engines and the glow of digital controls. He envisioned himself one day at the helm of a real aircraft, soaring through the skies with the same skill and precision he displayed in his simulations. This dream, however, seemed to grow more distant with each passing day, increasingly overshadowed by the practicalities and expectations imposed by his family. Yet, despite the mounting pressure, Jake's resolve remained unshaken. His belief in his dreams was unwavering, and he clung to the hope that one day he would find a way to bridge the gap between his aspirations and reality. That Saturday morning, the Johnson household was steeped in a tense, almost palpable silence. Jake, with bleary eyes and a faint smile that spoke of both exhaustion and triumph, made his way down the stairs toward the kitchen. The previous night had been spent in an intense immersion in the flight simulator, tackling a complex mission that included a challenging night landing under adverse conditions. For Jake, this was far more than just a digital endeavor. It was a test of his capabilities, a way to affirm his skills and dedication to becoming a real pilot. As he descended the stairs, the weight of his nocturnal flight still fresh in his mind, He hoped against hope that one day his dreams would lift off the screen and soar into the sky, proving to both his parents and himself that aspirations, no matter how distant they seem, can indeed take flight and reach for the stars. As Jake entered the kitchen, his hopeful smile quickly faded when he met the stern, unyielding gaze of his father, Tom, who was already seated at the table with an unmistakable air of disapproval. The tension in the room was almost tangible, a thick, heavy silence that seemed to press down on Jake's shoulders. Sarah, busy preparing breakfast, cast worried glances between her husband and son, her concern evident in the furrow of her brow and the tight line of her mouth. "Jake, we need to talk," Tom said, his voice firm and controlled, each word carrying the weight of his frustration. Jake's heart sank, his nerves suddenly on edge, as if gravity itself had conspired to anchor him to the spot. His feet felt like lead as he stood frozen, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. "You spent the entire night on that computer again, didn't you?" Tom continued, his tone unyielding and uncompromising, not pausing for a reply. "This is unacceptable, Jake. I've told you time and time again that these games are not real life. The world outside isn't something you can control with a keyboard and mouse." Jake opened his mouth to defend himself, but the words seemed to catch in his throat, rendered ineffective by the sheer force of his father's disapproval. He felt a storm of frustration and sadness brewing within him, a tumultuous mix of emotions that was difficult to contain. To Jake, the simulators represented far more than just a pastime. They were a vital step toward his dream of becoming a pilot. "Dad, I was just practicing. I want to learn this. It might be useful someday," Jake said, his voice trembling slightly despite his efforts to remain calm. The anxiety he felt was palpable, a sharp contrast to the composed facade he tried to maintain. Tom's expression hardened even further. His gaze was unrelenting, and he shook his head with a resolute finality. "No, Jake, this is enough. I'm forbidding you from using the computer to play games. You need to concentrate on things that truly matter: your studies and your health. I'm not going to allow you to waste any more time on these fantasies." The impact of Tom's words hit Jake like a physical blow. He turned to look at Sarah, hoping for a glimmer of understanding or support, but the concern etched in her features only deepened his sense of isolation. Sarah, though more empathetic and understanding of Jake's passion, was also troubled by the excessive amount of time he spent on the computer. She knew the importance of finding a balance, but felt increasingly caught in the middle. "Tom, maybe we can find a middle ground," Sarah interjected, her voice gentle but firm, trying to diffuse the escalating tension. "I understand Jake's enthusiasm for the simulators, but perhaps we can set some reasonable limits. If we allow him specific times to play, he can still focus on other activities and responsibilities." Her suggestion was a delicate attempt to bridge the gap between Tom's rigid stance and Jake's deep-seated dreams. Tom sighed deeply, his irritation evident, but his demeanor softening slightly as he considered Sarah's proposal. "Fine," he relented, though his frustration was still palpable. "But with one condition: these games cannot interfere with his studies or his social life. From now on, Jake can only use the computer for games on weekends, and even then, only for a limited amount of time." Jake's heart ached with a mixture of relief and disappointment. The compromise offered a sliver of hope, but also felt like a significant curtailment of his freedom. As he processed the new limitations, he felt a profound sense of loss, the dream of uniting his virtual and real worlds seemingly more distant than ever. The morning continued in uneasy silence, the unresolved tensions lingering in the air as Jake tried to reconcile his passion with the new boundaries imposed on him. Jake sat quietly, his emotions a turbulent sea of relief and disappointment. He nodded slowly, acknowledging the compromise with a heavy heart. It wasn't the resolution he had hoped for, but it was a step, however modest, toward finding a balance. Yet, as he absorbed the gravity of the situation, He couldn't shake the feeling that something essential had broken between him and his parents. The gulf of misunderstanding and lack of support for his aspirations as a pilot had created an almost palpable barrier, an invisible wall that now stood between them. Sarah looked at Jake with eyes full of a mixture of tenderness and concern. Her voice was soft, almost pleading as she tried to offer a glimmer of solace. "Jake, we know how much you love this, and your father's right to be worried. There's a whole world out there for you to explore. Maybe if you show us that you're committed to other things as well, we'll all start to understand how important this dream of yours is." Jake forced a nod, though the storm brewing within him was far from calm. He yearned to prove that his passion for flight was not merely a childish whim, but a serious dream worthy of respect and support. But now, more than ever, he felt isolated on this path, like a lone voyager adrift at sea. As he rose from the table and walked toward his room, he promised himself that he would find a way to reach for the skies, even if it meant navigating his journey alone. With summer's arrival came a semblance of relief for the Johnson family. Eager for a break from the mounting tensions at home, Tom and Sarah decided it was time for a change of scenery. They opted for a vacation to Hawaii, a destination they had long dreamed of exploring. Although the trip was intended as a respite, the unresolved tension between Jake and his father remained a subtle yet persistent undercurrent, casting a shadow over their anticipation. At the bustling airport, as they waited to board their flight, Jake's heart was caught in a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. The excitement of the vacation offered a distraction from his daily routine, yet he was painfully aware of the void left by the absence of his beloved simulators. The prospect of being away from his familiar environment, detached from the virtual skies he cherished so much, filled him with a gnawing anxiety. He recognized this trip as a precious chance to reconnect with his family, to mend some of the fractured bonds, but his mind remained tethered to the skies he longed to soar through. With every passing moment, Jake tried to focus on the positives of the trip, hoping it might offer a new perspective, or perhaps an opportunity to bridge the gap with his parents. The plane, bound for Hawaii, symbolized not just a physical journey but a quest for renewal and understanding, a chance for Jake to reconcile his dreams with the reality of his family's expectations. As the plane prepared for boarding, Jake's curiosity bubbled to the surface. He watched intently, his gaze following every movement of the crew with rapt attention. The pilots, engrossed in their pre-flight routines, seemed to perform a meticulously choreographed dance, each action precise and deliberate. To Jake, this was more than just an operational procedure. It was a symphony of professionalism and skill that mirrored the intricate details of his beloved flight simulators. As he approached the cockpit, Jake's heart pounded with excitement. He peered inside, his eyes wide with wonder. The cockpit was a marvel of technology, with controls, monitors, and instruments that, while familiar from his games, now held a complexity he could hardly wait to unravel. It was as if he was standing at the threshold of his dreams, glimpsing the reality of what he had always aspired to. For a fleeting moment, the pilot noticed Jake's intense fascination. With a warm, inviting smile, he turned to the young observer and asked, "Would you like to be a pilot someday?" Jake, caught off guard yet exhilarated, nodded vigorously. The pilot's encouragement was both validating and inspiring. "Then you should study hard and never give up on your dreams," the pilot advised, his words imbued with genuine encouragement. He gave Jake one last encouraging look before turning back to his tasks. Jake's heart swelled with inspiration. As the plane began its ascent and the ground slowly receded beneath them, he settled into his seat, gazing out the window with an intense focus. The vast, expanding horizon seemed to beckon him, reinforcing his fervent desire to one day command a plane himself. Every second of the flight was a reaffirmation of his dream, fueling his resolve to make it a reality. Throughout the flight, Jake's mind was a whirlwind of excitement and reflection. He replayed every detail of the cockpit, its controls, the rhythmic sounds of the engines, the subtle glow of the instrument lights. It was a tangible connection to the virtual world he cherished, now brought vividly to life. The sight of the real cockpit and the pilot's encouragement were like a beacon guiding him toward his future. Meanwhile, Tom and Sarah observed their son with a blend of emotions. Tom, who had been skeptical of Jake's passion, couldn't ignore the spark of determination in his son's eyes, something he had rarely seen before. Sarah, ever the bridge builder, hoped this trip would offer a fresh perspective for everyone. She saw how the experience seemed to ignite Jake's spirit and hoped it might also bring a new understanding to Tom. As the flight continued and the cabin lights dimmed for relaxation, Jake remained absorbed in his thoughts. The journey was not just a physical passage to Hawaii, but a metaphorical voyage towards his dreams. He felt an invigorating sense of purpose and determination, knowing that every moment spent in the air was a step closer to achieving his aspiration of becoming a pilot. As the plane sailed serenely across the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, Jake found solace in the rhythmic hum of the engines and the gentle sway of the aircraft. He allowed himself to be enveloped by the soothing calm of the flight, even as his mind wandered far beyond the confines of his seat. In his imagination, he was no longer a passenger, but the master of the cockpit, commanding the colossal machine with confidence and precision. The dream that had been a source of comfort and inspiration through countless hours of simulation now felt tantalizingly within reach. The clouds and the boundless blue sky seemed to whisper promises of a future where his aspirations could truly take flight. This journey to Hawaii was more than just a break from routine. It was a pivotal moment that seemed to hold the potential to redefine Jake's summer and perhaps even the trajectory of his entire life. Each passing mile felt like a step closer to realizing his deepest desires, filling him with a profound sense of anticipation and hope. However, as the plane continued its peaceful voyage, Jake's sense of unease began to stir. Despite his efforts to immerse himself in the breathtaking views and the tranquil atmosphere, a nagging worry lingered at the edge of his consciousness. The excitement of soaring through the sky was overshadowed by a growing sense of dread he couldn't quite identify. Without warning, the serenity was shattered. The plane was abruptly jolted by severe turbulence, causing a cacophony of gasps and startled cries from the passengers. The fastened seatbelt signs flashed urgently, and the cabin was thrown into disarray. The once calm and collected atmosphere quickly descended into chaos as the turbulence intensified, making the plane shudder violently. Jake's heart raced with mounting anxiety as he watched the cabin crew struggle to maintain order. Their efforts to reassure the passengers seemed increasingly futile amidst the growing turbulence. His pulse quickened as he noticed the situation taking a more alarming turn. The turbulence appeared to be affecting the cockpit crew as well. The once authoritative presence of the pilot and co-pilot was now marred by visible distress. They began to slump in their seats, their faces etched with concern as they grappled with the controls. The sight of their deteriorating condition sent ripples of panic through the cabin, and murmurs of fear and confusion began to spread among the passengers. Amid the escalating tension, a flight attendant, her face a mask of worry, hurried to the front of the cabin. She attempted to establish communication with the cockpit, her voice trembling slightly as she addressed the passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have an urgent situation. Please remain calm and stay in your seats," she announced, her words laced with a sense of gravity that matched the mood of the cabin. The once tranquil flight had transformed into a scene of uncertainty and anxiety. Jake's mind raced as he grappled with the unfolding crisis, the dream of piloting a plane now a stark contrast to the harsh reality confronting him. As the plane rocked and the turbulence continued its relentless assault, Jake's hope for a serene journey seemed to drift further away, replaced by a pressing need to confront the chaos that had abruptly invaded their flight. Jake's mind raced with a tumultuous blend of fear and determination. His countless hours spent in flight simulators had imbued him with a reservoir of knowledge about emergency procedures, navigation, and control systems. The vivid memory of the pilot's encouraging words reverberated in his mind, amplifying a profound sense of responsibility and courage within him. Despite being just 12 years old, Jake felt an overpowering urge to step up and act in this dire situation. With a resolve that belied his age, Jake approached the flight attendant, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "I have experience with flight simulators," he explained earnestly. "I think I can help." The flight attendant, initially skeptical, was gripped by desperation and recognized that any assistance was better than none. With a nod of reluctant hope, she guided Jake towards the cockpit. As Jake stepped into the cockpit, he was met with a scene of utter disarray. The pilot and co-pilot were slumped over their controls, their faces pale with exhaustion and distress. The cockpit was a whirlwind of flashing warning lights and disordered controls. Jake took a deep, steadying breath, forcing himself to remain calm amid the turbulence and confusion. He had studied these scenarios in his simulations, but nothing could fully prepare him for the chaos unfolding before him. He gingerly slid into the pilot's seat, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on him. His hands, though slightly trembling, moved with purpose as he began to assess the controls. With a practiced eye, Jake identified the critical instruments that needed adjustment. He steadied the yoke with careful precision, guiding the plane through the violent shakes and jolts caused by the turbulence. Each movement was deliberate, driven by the hours of practice he had logged in virtual skies. Jake's mind was a blur of concentration and adrenaline as he worked to stabilize the aircraft. He reached for the intercom, his voice ringing out with a surprising steadiness. "Everyone, please remain calm. I'm going to do my best to keep us safe. We'll be in touch soon," he announced, striving to infuse his words with reassurance. Despite his youth, his voice carried a tone of unwavering determination, a beacon of hope amid the crisis. The passengers, initially bewildered by the announcement, began to take comfort in the presence of someone who appeared to be taking charge. The turbulence, though still fierce, seemed to ease slightly under Jake's steadying hand. The cockpit, once a symbol of chaos, started to come under control as Jake drew upon his simulator training and an innate resolve to navigate through the storm. Jake's heart pounded with a mix of fear and exhilaration, but his focus remained laser-sharp. The cockpit, with its myriad of controls and gauges, was no longer an intimidating labyrinth but a challenge he was determined to master. In that moment, Jake was not just a boy in a crisis, but a young pilot proving to himself and everyone else that even in the face of unimaginable adversity, dreams could take flight and courage could soar above the storm. Drawing on the knowledge and skills he had meticulously honed through countless hours of flight simulation, Jake took a deep breath and steered the plane through the turbulence with surprising competence. His heart pounded with a mixture of adrenaline and focus as he worked to bring stability back to the aircraft. Slowly but surely, the violent shaking began to subside, and the once turbulent skies started to clear. The plane, guided by Jake's steady hands, began to regain its equilibrium. The passengers, initially bewildered and frightened, gradually became aware of the gravity of the situation. The realization that a young boy had taken control of the aircraft and managed to navigate through such a perilous scenario left them in awe. Murmurs of astonishment and relief rippled through the cabin as they processed the extraordinary turn of events. The flight attendants, having managed to regain their composure, moved about the cabin with a renewed sense of purpose. Their eyes reflected a blend of astonishment and gratitude as they ensured the safety and comfort of the passengers, keeping them informed about the situation. Their earlier fear was now replaced by admiration for the young hero who had single-handedly steered them through the crisis. When the plane finally touched down safely, the atmosphere in the cabin was charged with a profound sense of relief and celebration. The passengers, who had witnessed a miracle unfold before their eyes, erupted in applause, their claps echoing with heartfelt appreciation. Jake's parents, Tom and Sarah, initially overwhelmed by shock and disbelief, were now engulfed in immense pride. Their eyes welled up with tears as they looked at their son, who had transformed from a passionate dreamer into a real-life hero. In the aftermath of the flight, Jake's actions quickly garnered widespread acclaim. The story of the 12-year-old boy who had taken control of a potentially disastrous situation captured the public's imagination and became a media sensation. Headlines across the world hailed Jake's extraordinary bravery and quick thinking, celebrating him as a symbol of courage and resilience. For Jake and his family, this harrowing yet transformative experience became a turning point. Tom and Sarah, once skeptical and concerned, now saw their son's passion in a new, illuminated light. They recognized that Jake's dream of becoming a pilot was not merely a fleeting fantasy, but a tangible aspiration with the potential to become a reality. This epiphany helped mend the rift that had developed between them, bridging the gap of misunderstanding and skepticism. The incident not only marked a momentous achievement in Jake's young life, but also served as a profound lesson for his family. It demonstrated that dreams, no matter how seemingly outlandish, could indeed take flight in the most unexpected ways. Jake's heroic act became a testament to the power of dedication and passion, showing that sometimes, against all odds, the impossible can become possible, and dreams can truly soar beyond the limits of imagination. The plane was in grave trouble, and the situation was rapidly deteriorating. Without anyone at the helm, the aircraft was veering towards an increasingly perilous fate. Jake could see the plane beginning to experience light, yet unsettling turbulence, and his heart sank as he watched the altitude steadily drop. The cabin, once bustling with the hum of in-flight conversations, was now cloaked in a suffocating silence. The whispers of anxious passengers became the only sound, punctuated by occasional gasps and muffled cries of fear. The gravity of the situation was unmistakable, and the crew's efforts to maintain order were visibly faltering under the strain. Jake's gaze drifted to his parents, and what he saw there sent a jolt of panic through him. For the first time, he saw a raw, unfiltered fear etched deeply into his father's face. Tom's usually composed demeanor was now shattered, his eyes wide with worry and helplessness. Beside him, Sarah clutched Jake's hand with a desperate grip, her attempt to offer comfort rendered feeble by the escalating crisis. "Everything will be okay," she whispered, her voice trembling, as if she were trying to convince herself more than anyone else. The flight attendants, their faces a mirror of the passengers' anxiety, were scrambling to manage the chaotic scene around them. As the turbulence intensified and the plane's descent became more pronounced, Jake felt a surge of determination. The hours he had dedicated to mastering flight simulators now seemed like more than just practice, they felt like a lifeline. Although he was acutely aware of the vast difference between virtual simulations and the reality of actual flight control, the impulse to help was overwhelming. His heart raced with a mix of fear and resolve, and he knew he had to act. Gathering every ounce of courage he could muster, Jake rose from his seat. The aisle stretched before him, a path of both literal and metaphorical distance from safety to a chance at redemption. With a focused determination, he made his way down the swaying aisle, each step echoing with the weight of his resolve. He approached a flight attendant, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside him. "I know this might sound insane, but I have experience with flight simulators. I might be able to help." The flight attendant, her eyes reflecting a mix of skepticism and desperation, considered Jake's offer. Amid the mounting chaos and the increasing urgency, she decided to take a chance. With a nod, she led Jake to the cockpit, where the situation was even more dire than anticipated. Inside the cockpit, the atmosphere was chaotic. The pilots, once the embodiment of control and confidence, were now slumped over their seats, clearly incapacitated. The cockpit was a cacophony of alarms and flashing lights, a stark contrast to the calm precision Jake was accustomed to in his simulations. Jake took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing thoughts. He approached the pilot's seat with a mixture of trepidation and determination. His hands shook slightly as he adjusted the controls, but his mind was clear and focused. He recalled every lesson and every simulation scenario and began to stabilize the aircraft. He carefully managed the yoke, navigating through the turbulence with a steady hand. Communicating with the cabin crew through the intercom, he tried to project calm and control. "Everyone, please remain in your seats and stay calm. I'm going to do my best to guide us through this. We'll be in touch shortly." As Jake took charge, the turbulence gradually eased. The plane's descent slowed, and a tentative calm began to settle over the cabin. The passengers, initially stunned and anxious, started to recognize the young boy's extraordinary courage. The flight attendants, now visibly relieved, worked to reassure and comfort the passengers. The plane eventually landed safely, and the relief among the passengers and crew was palpable. The once tense and frightened atmosphere transformed into one of awe and gratitude. As Jake's parents looked at him with a mixture of shock, pride, and newfound respect, they realized that their son's dream and passion were not just whimsical fantasies, but the very skills that had saved lives. In the aftermath of the crisis, Jake's heroism was celebrated far and wide. The story of the 12-year-old boy who took control of the plane became a global sensation. It was a testament to the power of dreams, the impact of preparation, and the incredible capacity for courage. For Jake and his family, this extraordinary event marked a new chapter, a moment of profound realization and renewed hope, demonstrating that sometimes, against all odds, dreams could indeed take flight and defy expectations. The attendant's gaze was filled with disbelief as she absorbed Jake's offer, but desperation had a way of opening even the most skeptical minds. With a nod of cautious hope, she hurried to the cockpit, leaving Jake in the narrow aisle, his heart pounding as he felt the weight of dozens of anxious eyes upon him. He stood there, both scared and determined, bracing himself for the challenge ahead. When the attendant returned, she ushered Jake into the cockpit. The scene that greeted him was one of sheer chaos. The cockpit was awash in flashing alarms and the hum of malfunctioning systems. The pilots were slumped over, unconscious, and the autopilot, a temporary solution at best, was struggling to keep the plane on course. The altitude was decreasing rapidly, and the atmosphere was thick with urgency. Jake took a deep breath, his mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. The sleek, intricate controls, once a part of a virtual world, now felt overwhelming in their tangible reality. He knew he had to act swiftly, leveraging every bit of knowledge he had absorbed from his countless hours of flight simulation. He positioned himself in the pilot's seat, hands trembling but steadying as he gripped the controls. He assessed the situation with a quick, analytical gaze, gauging the altitude, speed, and heading. With a mix of trepidation and resolve, he began to maneuver the aircraft, attempting to stabilize the plane and counteract the descent. The turbulence was unrelenting, but Jake focused on the fundamentals, maintaining level flight and regaining control. The radio crackled to life, and the calm yet authoritative voice of the air traffic controller from the Honolulu control tower cut through the cockpit's chaos. "Flight 5678, this is Honolulu Control Tower. We understand you are in command. We will guide you to a safe landing. Stay calm and follow our instructions." Jake's heart raced as he listened to the controller's voice. It was a lifeline, a beacon of hope amid the storm. He nodded to himself, feeling a renewed sense of determination. He acknowledged the controller's instructions and began to follow the precise directions given, adjusting the controls and communicating with the tower as best as he could. The minutes felt like hours as Jake worked to steady the aircraft. Every action was critical, every adjustment was a step towards safety. The turbulence eventually began to subside, and the plane started to regain some semblance of stability. Jake's hands moved with growing confidence, guided by the controller's expert advice. As the plane approached the airport, the gravity of the situation did not escape him. The landing gear was deployed, and Jake prepared for the final approach. His breathing was shallow but controlled, his focus unwavering. The ground crew, alerted to the unfolding drama, was ready to assist. The runway lights were a welcome sight, a symbol of hope and the imminent end to their ordeal. When the plane touched down safely, a wave of relief washed over Jake. The passengers, who had been on edge throughout the turbulent journey, erupted into applause, their cheers a testament to the incredible feat Jake had achieved. The crew, though initially stunned, expressed their profound gratitude. Jake's parents, who had watched the whole ordeal with a mix of fear and awe, finally approached him. Their eyes were filled with pride and amazement, and they embraced him tightly. The moment was profound, an unspoken acknowledgement of Jake's bravery and a turning point in their relationship. In the days that followed, Jake's actions became a global sensation. The story of the young boy who took control of a plane in a moment of crisis was celebrated worldwide. Jake was hailed as a hero, his bravery and quick thinking becoming the stuff of legend. But beyond the accolades and media frenzy, the incident brought about a meaningful change within the Johnson family. Tom and Sarah saw their son in a new light. The experience of watching Jake save the plane transformed their understanding of his passion and dedication. They realized that his dream was not a mere fantasy but a reflection of his courage and commitment. The journey to Hawaii had become more than a vacation, it was a pivotal moment that reshaped their family's dynamics and solidified Jake's place as a true hero. Jake's fingers trembled on the controls as he followed the controller's instructions, each command echoing the procedures he had drilled into his mind through endless hours of simulation. The turbulence had subsided, but the memory of the chaos lingered, fueling his anxiety. His gaze darted between the instruments and the view outside, trying to gauge his alignment with the runway through the thickening haze. Flight 5678, you're doing well. Now, reduce speed to 150 knots and lower the landing gear. The controller's voice crackled through Jake's headphones, calm and reassuring, despite the gravity of the situation. Jake responded with a quick, reducing speed to 150 knots and lowering the gear as he adjusted the throttle and engaged the landing gear. The familiar sounds of the gear extending and locking into place offered a small sense of relief. In the cabin, the atmosphere was a mix of palpable tension and tentative hope. Tom and Sarah sat in stunned silence, their thoughts a whirl of disbelief and pride. The realization that their son was at the helm had initially paralyzed them with fear, but now they could do nothing but hope for the best and trust in Jake's abilities. Sarah's tears had dried, replaced by a desperate hope, while Tom, despite his pale complexion, squeezed her hand in silent support. As Jake continued to follow the controller's instructions, he was instructed to make minor adjustments to the plane's alignment. Turn left slightly to correct your heading, the controller directed. Jake's hands moved with cautious precision, turning the yoke and watching the instruments closely. The runway lights became clearer, a beacon of hope cutting through the haze. The sight of them, growing closer with each passing moment, provided a visual anchor for his focused mind. Jake's heart raced as he prepared for the final approach. Flight 5678, you're on the right track. Prepare for landing, the controller's voice offered the final piece of guidance. Jake lowered the flaps, adjusted the speed as instructed, and made the necessary final adjustments to align perfectly with the runway. Every detail mattered now. The descent had to be smooth and controlled. Flaps are set. Final adjustments complete, Jake confirmed, his voice steadier than he felt. He glanced at the instruments one last time and took a deep breath. The landing gear touched down smoothly, and the plane rolled down the runway with a reassuring firmness. The cabin erupted in cheers and applause as the plane came to a stop. Relief and gratitude filled the air, mingling with the echoes of Jake's steady breaths. The flight attendants, who had been working tirelessly to keep passengers calm, exchanged astonished looks of admiration. The ground crew, alerted and ready, quickly moved to assist. Jake's parents were among the first to reach him after he exited the cockpit. Their embrace was tight, a mixture of overwhelming relief and profound pride. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she held Jake close, and Tom's voice, though choked with emotion, was filled with a newfound respect for his son. The media frenzy that followed was intense, but the recognition was well-earned. Jake was celebrated as a young hero whose quick thinking and simulator skills had saved countless lives. The incident had a profound effect on his family, bridging gaps that had seemed insurmountable before. Tom and Sarah saw Jake's dream not just as a childhood whim, but as a reflection of his extraordinary courage and potential. In the end, the journey to Hawaii had become more than just a vacation. It was a life-changing event that reshaped the Johnson family's understanding of each other, marking the beginning of a new chapter where dreams and reality intertwined in the most unexpected ways. As the plane touched down, the immediate relief that washed over Jake was palpable. The vibrations of the landing gear against the runway were a comforting confirmation that they had safely reached solid ground. He engaged the brakes and thrust reversers with careful precision, slowing the aircraft as the runway markings and lights sped past. Jake glanced at the control panel, where the flashing lights and alerts gradually faded as the plane came to a full stop. He took a deep breath, his chest rising and falling with the adrenaline still coursing through him. The roar of applause from the cabin was a powerful, gratifying noise, a mix of relief and admiration that filled the air. The flight attendants, who had managed to keep the passengers calm throughout the ordeal, now moved through the aisles with looks of awe and gratitude directed at Jake. They exchanged quick, approving nods and smiles, and their initial skepticism transformed into admiration. The cockpit door opened, and the ground crew, along with emergency responders, entered to ensure everything was in order. The chief flight attendant, visibly emotional, placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. "You did an incredible job," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you." Jake, feeling the weight of the moment, managed a weary but sincere smile. He had never imagined that his training and dreams would lead to such a high-stakes scenario, but in that moment, it felt like everything he had worked for had come to fruition. As he stepped out of the cockpit, Jake was met by his parents. Their faces, a mixture of awe and tearful pride, were a stark contrast to the fear and concern they had shown earlier. Sarah pulled him into a tight embrace, her tears of relief and pride mingling with the sweat and exhaustion on Jake's face. "You were amazing," she whispered, her voice breaking. Tom, although still in shock, clasped Jake's shoulders with a firm, approving grip. "I'm proud of you, son," he said, his voice choked with emotion. The airport was bustling with activity as the story of the young hero spread quickly. Media personnel, emergency responders, and airport staff all converged to witness and cover the extraordinary event. Jake's bravery and quick thinking were celebrated far and wide, and the story of Flight 5678 became a testament to the courage and the unexpected ways in which dreams can take flight. In the days that followed, Jake and his family found themselves at the center of media attention and public acclaim. Interviews, news reports, and social media posts all praised Jake's heroism, with many highlighting the importance of pursuing one's passions and training diligently. For Jake, the experience was transformative. His dream of becoming a pilot, once a personal aspiration, had now become a beacon of hope and inspiration for many. The incident had not only bridged the gap between him and his parents, but it also provided a newfound respect for his ambitions. As the Johnson family settled into their vacation in Hawaii, the trip became a time of reflection and reconnection. The breathtaking views and serene beaches provided a perfect backdrop for the family to strengthen their bond and savor the triumphs of the past few days. Jake, now more determined than ever, continued to pursue his dream with a renewed sense of purpose. The turbulence of that fateful flight had tested his skills and resolve, but it also reaffirmed his belief that sometimes the skies are clearer after the storm. The cockpit door swung open, and the flight attendants rushed in, their faces a mix of tears and relief. They gathered around Jake, showering him with hugs and expressions of gratitude. Amid the chaos and commotion, Jake found himself enveloped in a sea of warmth and appreciation. His parents, Tom and Sarah, were among the first to reach him, their tears mingling with smiles of pride and disbelief. Jake's father, who had been stern and skeptical about his son's aspirations, now stood with a look of awe and admiration that spoke volumes. As the emergency services arrived to assess the situation and ensure everyone's safety, Jake began to fully comprehend the gravity of his actions. The once familiar environment of the cockpit had transformed from a space of technical challenges into a place of triumph. He had transitioned from a young simulator enthusiast to a real-life hero, saving the flight and its passengers. The Honolulu airport was abuzz with activity. News of the dramatic landing and the young pilot quickly spread, attracting a swarm of media personnel, curious onlookers, and emergency responders. Jake, still dazed from the ordeal, was escorted to a secure room where doctors performed a thorough checkup to ensure he was in good health. His parents stayed close, their presence a comforting anchor amid the whirlwind of events. For Tom, this experience was nothing short of transformative. His earlier skepticism about Jake's dream had been replaced by a profound respect for his son's passion and skill. Seeing Jake handle the crisis with such composure shattered any doubts he had about the seriousness of Jake's ambitions. Tom's pride was palpable as he watched his son become the focal point of admiration and acclaim. In the aftermath of the landing, Jake was thrust into the limelight. Media outlets from around the world were eager to interview the young hero who had defied expectations and saved the day. Reporters, cameras, and flashing lights surrounded him, capturing the story of the boy who had not only navigated a plane through turbulence, but had done so with remarkable skill and bravery. Though overwhelmed by the attention, Jake handled the interviews with a calm demeanor that belied his age. He spoke about his passion for aviation and his experience in the simulator with a clarity that impressed everyone. Described as a calm, focused young man with an extraordinary talent for flying, Jake's story quickly became a symbol of courage and determination. As the days went by, the attention and accolades continued to pour in. Jake's actions had not only ensured the safety of everyone on board, but had also brought his dream into the spotlight. The incident served as a powerful reminder of the extraordinary potential that lies within even the most unexpected of places. Tom and Sarah, now fully supportive of Jake's aspirations, began to view his future in aviation with renewed enthusiasm. They had witnessed firsthand the passion and skill their son possessed, and they were determined to support him in any way they could. The family's bond was strengthened by the shared experience, and they began to embrace Jake's dream with a newfound understanding and pride. Jake, despite the whirlwind of media attention, remained grounded. The ordeal had solidified his resolve to pursue his passion for aviation, and he knew that this experience, though challenging, had only strengthened his commitment to becoming a pilot. The journey that began with a flight simulator had taken an unexpected turn, but it had also opened doors to new opportunities and a future filled with possibility. As the Johnson family prepared to return to their everyday lives, they did so with a profound sense of gratitude and unity. The vacation in Hawaii, which had started as an escape from tension, had become a defining chapter in their lives, a testament to the strength of family, the power of dreams, and the remarkable ways in which unexpected challenges can lead to extraordinary outcomes. The airline's gratitude and admiration for Jake were evident as they organized a special ceremony to honor him. The event took place on a makeshift stage at Honolulu Airport, where a crowd of passengers, crew members, and airline staff gathered to celebrate the young hero. As Jake stood on the stage, he was greeted by a thunderous standing ovation, the applause echoing through the terminal. The CEO of the airline approached, holding a beautifully crafted plaque. "Jake," the CEO began, his voice thick with emotion, "you demonstrated an extraordinary level of control and bravery today. On behalf of everyone on board and our entire company, we extend our deepest gratitude. Your quick thinking and skill saved countless lives. And we are immensely proud to honor you with this plaque." Jake received the plaque with a mixture of awe and humility, his heart swelling with pride. The applause continued as the CEO concluded, "Thank you, Jake, for showing us all that courage and dedication can truly make a difference." After the ceremony, Tom approached Jake, his eyes reflecting a deep sense of respect and newfound understanding. He placed a firm hand on Jake's shoulder, his voice carrying a note of sincerity. "Jake, I have to admit I was wrong about your passion for aviation. I never imagined that your games could prepare you for something like this. But today, you showed us all that you're not just a kid with a hobby. You have real talent and incredible courage. You saved our lives and the lives of everyone on that plane." Jake looked up at his father, tears welling in his eyes. For the first time, he felt that Tom saw him for who he truly was, a young person with significant skills and dreams. The acknowledgement and pride in his father's voice were deeply moving. Sarah, overwhelmed with emotion, pulled Jake into a tight hug. "I am so proud of you, Jake. You have shown us all what you are truly capable of. I love you so much, and I am so grateful that you were there when it mattered most." This heartfelt exchange was a turning point for the Johnson family. The ordeal had not only validated Jake's dreams but had also deepened the bond between them. The family's recognition of Jake's talents and courage transformed their understanding of his aspirations, bridging the gap that had once existed between them. As they left the airport and prepared to return home, the Johnsons were united in their renewed sense of hope and pride. The trip to Hawaii, which had started as a simple vacation, had become a profound and transformative experience. It highlighted the strength of family, the power of pursuing one's dreams, and the remarkable impact that unexpected challenges can have on shaping lives and relationships. Jake's remarkable act of bravery quickly captured the world's attention. Media outlets scrambled to feature his story, broadcasting interviews and articles that celebrated the young hero. Networks from around the globe sought his insights, while aviation experts marveled at his composure and skill. Despite the whirlwind of fame, Jake remained remarkably grounded. In every interview, he humbly credited his flight simulator training and the expert guidance from the control tower for his success. In the aftermath of the incident, the Johnson family decided to remain in Honolulu for a period of recuperation and reflection. They used this time to delve deeper into the world of aviation. Tom and Sarah visited a local aviation school where Jake was given the extraordinary opportunity to experience professional simulators and even take a short flight in a small plane with an instructor. For Jake, this was a dream come true. He soaked in every moment, his passion for flying ignited more intensely than ever before. For Tom and Sarah, these experiences were eye-opening. They witnessed firsthand the depth of Jake's talent and dedication. What had once seemed like a whimsical hobby now appeared as a tangible and serious pursuit. Tom, who had been skeptical of Jake's aspirations, found himself transformed by the events. He became a staunch supporter of Jake's dream, recognizing the potential he had once underestimated. Sarah, equally moved, joined Tom in committing to Jake's future. The Johnsons made a pivotal decision to invest in Jake's education and training, ensuring he had the resources and support needed to pursue an aviation career. They began exploring options for formal flight training, scholarships, and educational opportunities to nurture Jake's burgeoning talent. This newfound commitment marked a significant shift in their family's dynamic. The very hobby that had once been a source of contention and misunderstanding had now become a beacon of hope and potential. Jake, now more motivated than ever, embraced the challenge ahead with renewed vigor. He understood that the path to becoming a professional pilot would be long and filled with obstacles, but his recent experiences had only strengthened his resolve. The boy who had once been reprimanded for his passion for flight simulators had transformed into an internationally celebrated hero, with a clear vision for his future and the unwavering support of his family. As they prepared to return home, the Johnsons were united by a shared sense of purpose and pride. Jake's journey had not only reshaped his own life, but it also brought his family closer together. The experiences in Honolulu had given them a new perspective on dreams, courage, and the incredible potential within each of them. With a bright and promising future ahead, Jake looked forward to the challenges and triumphs that awaited him, knowing that he had already accomplished something extraordinary and that his journey was just beginning. Thank you for joining us on this journey through a wealth of insightful topics and practical advice. We've covered everything from understanding and enhancing relationships, exploring the impact of confidence, and integrating Stoic principles to addressing health concerns, especially as we age, and fostering social connections. So, what have you learned so far? What insights have resonated with you? And which strategies will you be putting into practice in your own life? We'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share one key takeaway that you're excited to apply. If you found this video valuable, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you content that matters.